The latest data on COVID-19, and there's a bit of good news, a glimmer perhaps, when you look at case numbers across the UK. Just look at that latest dot. Each of those dots, by the way, showing you the number of cases we get each day, announced each day. 36,389 cases. Why is that significant? It's because it's a third successive day that we've seen those coming down. So potentially encouraging. And if we look at different measures of how much COVID there is around the UK, well, look at this one, for instance. This is incidence looking at the amount of COVID per 100,000 in England. And that line may look like it's going up into the sky, which it kind of is. But if we convert this to a logarithmic chart, remember we've been doing this throughout the pandemic, haven't we? It gives you a sense of growth rate. So the steeper the lines are, the faster things are growing. Same data, I should say. And if we just zoom in on that latest line, you can see maybe in the last few days that growth rate has potentially slowed a little bit. But bear in mind two things. We still have yet to see the real impact of the unlocking, the 19th of July. That's probably going to push this line up even further. And secondly, there are other measures of COVID-19. They're not all quite as encouraging. Have a look at this. This shows you, this is the ONS, perhaps the most comprehensive of all the measures of COVID. And this line is still going up, in fact, up to 1 in 75 people in the week ending July the 17th. That's a lot higher than it was only a few months ago. Look, back in April, it was 1 in 600 people. And why is it worth comparing those two things? Well, that decision, remember that decision back in April about who was going to get which vaccination, and younger people aged under 40, the preference was not AstraZeneca for other things instead, Pfizer, Moderna, because of those blood clots that we were seeing. That calculus was partly because cases were very low at that point. Have a look at this. This is the chart that best shows it. On the left, you've got the benefits of the vaccine. Those bars show you basically your risk of going into intensive care if you haven't been vaccinated. They get bigger, don't they, as you get older, because that first bit at the top is 20 to 29-year-olds. And on the right-hand side, those red bits show you the risk from the side effects, so your likelihood of potentially getting a clot. And you can see the bars on the right are longer than the bars on the left for the youngest age groups. But now look what happens now, when we've got higher levels of COVID-19 around the country. Look at what happens to those bars. They shift across because you've got a greater risk of going into intensive care, even if you're in those younger age groups, so that even those aged 20 to 29 have a risk 2.2 per 100,000 of going into intensive care, compared with 1.9 per 100,000 of getting one of those blood clots. So that whole calculus has changed as the numbers of COVID-19 around the country have gone up.